I want us, and when I say us, I'm not talking about black people. I want us, people of Britain, black, white, pink, blue, grey, whatever you are, whoever you are, to really understand that this tragedy that is being visited upon us is not something for the black community, but this is something for the whole of Britain. I want all our politicians to understand that. I want people who live in the more leafier suburbs to understand it, that the story of the mothers and the families who weep at the loss of their children, that their story must become our story. Because if it does not become our story, then we are heading for a kind of Britain that really it's going to be all our downfall.
We're going to talk to two mothers.
And we arrived, and at the scene we could see like something obviously bad had happened, because the police tape was there and there was loads of people just sort of hanging about. There was an ambulance in one corner and it was just chaos. So we got to destination, and as I'm going up to where the cordon off, my daughter comes running out, and I could see that she was hysterical. And she grabs me and we hug each other, and I said, "Where's Nathaniel?" And the police officers come in at the same time, and she kind of beckons to the police officers, say, "Right, it's okay, I'll do it," kind of thing. And then she takes me to the corner and she tells me that Nathaniel's been stabbed and he hasn't made it. He literally died on the spot. Disbelief, like how, why, who, all those questions come flooding. I need to see my son. And I remember I said to her, "Where is he? Where is he?" She said, "He's in that house there." And I was like, okay. And I remember just running towards the house, and as I got to the door, obviously there's police officers there and they're like, "You can't go in." And I'm like, "You can't tell me that. My son's in there. I need to see him. I need to see my son. You're telling me that he's dead." But I can't believe it.
Well, the main issue is the increase in serious youth violence that's playing out across the UK, but particularly in London is where our focus is at the moment. Over the last 2 years, I would say that violence itself in London has increased by about 50%. So it's around about 40 offences every day involving violence with a knife. In relation to people who are getting stabbed, that's increased by about 25% over the last 2 years. So that means, again, every 24-hour period, there's about 6 people who are getting stabbed, which is just way too many.
And it's slowly like my older son came over, because he was originally got the first telephone call from Nathaniel's friends who were there at the scene to say that Nathaniel was there with them. They were all hanging, chilling, having a good time. And 2 other guys turned up who they didn't know, and one of them confronted Nathaniel, asking him, "Who is he? Where's he from?" And I use this term, "What ends are you from?" And Nathaniel, being very suspicious, was like, "I'm not going to tell him, don't know you," kind of thing. So I think what happened, as they pieced it together, was that because Nathaniel didn't respond to the questions that this guy had thrown at him, there was an altercation between Nathaniel. I think they were squaring up with each other, and then when Nathaniel wasn't expecting it, the guy pulled a knife out and stabbed him. And so something that was supposed to be a nice time, a nice party, a chill back with them, his friends having a good time, turned out to be a tragedy.
How do I see the issue of youth violence? I go back to the area I grew up in, and the young people are falling into the same traps that I did. That tells me that the issue isn't generational or a fluke, but it might be systematic. Why do young people see youth violence as a default? That's a question that needs to be answered.
I think building a relationship with young people through the arts is really important. I think that is key to enabling young people to express themselves, to find a means to create, to find a means to kind of deconstruct both art that they're making, but as well as that, deconstruct their own thinking, really reconsider and reconfigure where they are, who they are, what they might want to do.
We know when a kid is expelled from school, actually what their likely life trajectory is in terms of committing crimes and potentially going to jail. We know that that costs a lot more money. You know, it's between £30,000 and £50,000 a year to send a young person to jail. We know that a PRU is 10 times more expensive than it is to send a kid to school. Should we look into zero expulsions and actually investing the money in the school to provide the extra support then to ensure that kids don't need to be expelled in the future?
Many community organisations, statutory organisations, youth groups, arts organisations, church and faith groups are being impacted by this issue and becoming motivated to help. But in the changing landscape, they often lack the awareness and skills needed to make a real sustained difference. At Power to Fight, we think everyone has a vital role to play. We want to inspire and equip hundreds of organisations and community groups to be part of the answer to youth violence in their context. I have seen up close the need for a holistic public health response to youth violence. At Power to Fight, we have access to the leading thinkers and practitioners from a range of disciplines working in the field. We want to see organisations and communities better trained and equipped to make a difference to young people's lives.
A charity like Power to Fight can help arts organisations have the ability to really understand what resources and qualities that they can use to contribute to the serious youth violence. I think the networks that exist are really important in terms of that ecological approach, and I think those networks will enable us to really galvanise, I suppose, our resources for the benefit of young people.
So an organisation like Power the Fight will really assist in terms of us as the police in London and across the UK for two main reasons really. I think that first of all, training and equipping our officers to fully understanding some of the issues they're facing is going to be really important. I think our training takes us so far, but I think the involvement of an organisation like that will be really helpful. And the second thing that I think is critically important is building bridges with the community. We have to develop a rapport and a relationship with all of communities who are affected by this, and an organisation like that will help us to do that in a really effective way.
This is a fight against injustice. This is a fight against the exploitation of our young people. How we equip ourselves and how we power that fight will make all the difference. Help us to empower communities to end youth violence.